Hi, my name is Felix Matos Rodriguez and I am the Chancellor of the City University of New York. People who know me call me Felo, and this is my new conversation space on CUNY TV, Café con Felo. Bienvenidos a Café con Felo. Today we have the honor of hosting a distinguished New Yorker, Congressman Adriano Espaillat, who's proudly been representing Upper Manhattan for decades. Congressman Espaillat holds the distinction of being the first Dominican American to serve in the U.S. House of Representatives, as well as being the nation's foremost Dominican elected official. Congressman Espaillat's work on the House Education Committee underscores his unwavering dedication to shaping policies that impact the educational landscape of our city and nation. I hope that our diverse audience will have the privilege of learning about Congressman Espaillat's pioneering path from being an undocumented immigrant to a graduate of Queens College and to a member of the New York State Assembly and the Senate, and now serving in the U.S. Congress. He calls himself a progressive, a practical guy who believes more women should be in government and believes that race matters and that everybody should have a seat at the table. Congresista, it is truly an honor to have you on our show, and we look forward to your insightful and engaging conversation. But the first question always in Café con Felo is, how do you take your coffee and how many cups a day?
I take an espresso and 2 sugars and 1 a day. I try to keep it to 1 a day.
And I'm sure that is Dominican coffee, right?
Bustelo. I love Bustelo.
Okay, that's wonderful.
And it gives me that jolt that I need in the morning, and I keep on going from
Although
there.
I think nobody would accuse you of being somebody who doesn't have any energy.
No.
That's built into your DNA. But great to have you here
Thank
in
you,
the show. And I think that it might be good to give a little bit of a sense to the audience about the young Adriano Espaillat. Tell us about sort of arriving in New York City and some of your experiences in your youth.
Of course, this is obviously, as you know, Chancellor, a great city, one that's embedded in, I think, in the very mission of our nation, which is of diversity and opportunity. And so when we got here to join my maternal grandparents, who have been here since before I was born, actually, early 50s, we came right into a perfect storm, right? The Vietnam War, La Guerra de Abril back in the Dominican Republic, the tail end of the Civil Rights Movement, the assassination of Malcolm X, the assassination of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy. For the first time, the Vietnam War was being broadcast every day at the 6 o'clock news. You turn on the news at 6 p.m. every day, and it would tell you exactly what was going on in Vietnam. And so it was a perfect storm. And you know, whether I wanted to be in politics or no, I had no choice. And so I was involved in, at a very early age, my teens, mid-teens, I was already interested in politics and public service. You know, my grandparents and their friends always relied on me to be an interpreter, either in a hospital or in a office, government office.
I'm reading a story that you actually helped them with their own immigration or citizenship papers. Do I have that correct?
Well, you know, my grandmother's brother was one of these guys that used to help out and organize, you know, the visas and the green card applications for people. So I often went down to downtown to the immigration building to get the forms. Used to go down to the police department, which was down on Lafayette Street, Los Leones, because they used to call it Los Leones, because the building has 2 lines right in front of it, and get the forms that, you know, to get fingerprinted and the likes. And so we used to do that on an ongoing basis. I used to help out my grandmother's brother. And he was a real special guy. He knew how to do it. He wasn't an attorney, but he knew how to help out people back then. And so, yes, I was familiar with it. And of course, an attorney by the name of Antonio Martinez was the lead attorney for the Dominican community here back in that time. His son is now an attorney also, and his grandson is also an attorney. He may have been the first Dominican American to be part of the New York bar. He got us our green card, and we had to go back to the Dominican Republic, right almost in the tail end of the La Guerra de Abril, the Civil War there, to get our green card. And had we not gotten that, then of course we would have been stuck over there,
Who
and
knows?
I may not be here.
So, I mean, you were talking about that seed of public service and things that, and also how the moment sort of began to shape some of your early decisions. And one of the things that many people credit you with is that you've been an incredible mentor to a whole generation of not just Dominican leaders, but also a lot of elected officials here in New York. Who were some of your mentors? Who were some of the people that sort of you can go back and say, you know, in my races for the Assembly, the Senate, for Congress,
that's a very good
key
question.
people for you?
Of course, in my neighborhood, where I grew up in the lower Washington Heights area, the Sugar Hill area, there was a black Baptist preacher, Reverend Rucker, who was the pastor of the White Rock Baptist Church, who helped us all out, I say, all the young men and women there, who was particularly those that were new arrivals. He got us our first summer job. He got us acquainted with the civil rights movement. I think he really instilled in us the mission of fighting for your rights and respecting other people's rights. So he was an early mentor. And then, of course, when I went to CUNY, I had the privilege of being in a class with the great Michael Harrington.
Oh my God.
Who wrote The Other America, which is the blueprint for the Kennedy administration, and George Priestley, who was a Panamanian professor, an instrumental piece of the SEEK program, of which I was a student of. I think those two professors at Queens College were mentors to me. You know, later on obviously I got elected to the State Assembly and learn about the Midnight Walk. The Midnight Walk was the event that took place when the budget was being debated, and Percy Sutton and a few other members of the Black Caucus took a walk to the Speaker's office and said, we're going to stop the budget unless you do something for higher education for young Black and brown students. And that's where the SEEK program was born. Mm-hmm. And so I always got the opportunity to speak on the floor about Percy Sutton and the SEEK program, which is really the program that gave me the opportunity to be here right now.
So one of the things that, and I know that you serve in a number of committees in the House, I have leadership roles with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and a number of other caucuses. But I think one of the things that people always say is that you've always been an elected official that brings home the bacon. You're very practical, you know, very in tune with the needs of your community. At CUNY, we benefited from your support in the last couple of years and before with some of the earmarks. I think in the last couple of years, maybe $10, $12 million of support coming from you. So I tell people that he's brought the bacon, the sausage, you know, and many more things. You have so many projects that you've been involved with CUNY.
Yes.
What are some of the ones that give you the biggest satisfaction and pride?
Well, one is obviously the Rangel Center.
Yes.
Because it's joined at the hip with a bigger project, which is the Second Avenue Subway. So we were able to get $7.7 billion for the Second Avenue Subway. And that's 3 subway stops going from 96th Street north to 125th Street. Potentially there will be a third phase that will take it all the way west to the Columbia campus. But that project, which is an incredible project and is going to connect Harlem to the rest of the world, will not be successful unless there's an economic and job creation component to it. And so that's where the Rangel Center comes in at City College. So we have been able to get $7 million with the governor's help and our help in Washington for that center to move forward. And the mission is to really train the young people for those prevailing wage jobs that will be generated by the Second Avenue Subway proposal. But, you know, I've also given money to, obviously, the CUNY Dominican Studies Institute, El Centro, I mean, even the Mexican Institute,
yeah.
right? You know, we're giving money to them. I giving money to our good friend Milton Santiago over at Bronx Community College. He has a automotive program there. So for 2 consecutive years, hopefully this year he'll get it again and finalize the funding for it. That will be close to $2 million. And our Ostos Community College through Senator Schumer, we have been able to advocate for funding to go there. Yeah. So we have been working. I think an investment in CUNY is a no-brainer, yeah. Right? I mean, you make the decisions and you get 100 applications, right? And you say, well, there's 15 of them that could get approved. How do I do this, right? And it's simple. How do you help the amount of people, right? And investing in CUNY is not just investing in the students, but it's investing in that family.
Yep.
And the future of that family. So for me, it's simple. You know, I try to invest as much as I can in CUNY because I think that the investment goes further out than probably any other investment in government. The
return on investment is quite high. You say it's not just a student; you're anchoring the communities.
The community,
yes. Where the campuses are located. You're helping the families and
yes.
You're building intergenerational wealth and all the things that we know make a difference in the community. We deeply appreciate that work and your leadership there. You've also been a big voice on immigration reform in the country. Obviously, from you, it comes from a personal experience.
Yes.
It is not a theory. It's not something that you learn in the books. If you had like a magic wand, right, and the next president was just being advised by El Congresista Espaillat, how would you go about in reshaping some of the broken system that we have in the country?
I've learned in my years of Congress now that it has to be bipartisan. And so for that reason, I support the Dignity Act. You know, I'm not going to be able to get everything I want in the bill, but I will get some of the things that are so important to bring in also as many immigrants as possible to be favorably impacted. So the Dignity Act not only talks about border security, but it talks about family reunification. It talks about Dreamers. It talks about TPS recipients. It talks about the whole rainbow of immigration issue, which people often see it as a issue debate, but it's not. It's very diverse, complicated, and so I think that a comprehensive approach will be best served if it's bipartisan. And the Dignity Act has Republican support and Democratic support. Recently, I have been pushing for TPS for Ecuadorians because we see what's happening in Ecuador. And obviously, there will be a surge in the migration from that country. So let's provide temporary protected status for them. I've been interested in this issue since my assembly days when I was able to get in-state tuition
yes.
For CUNY students. That was, and I did that with a Republican governor, Governor Pataki, and a Republican-run Senate back then under Bruno.
Yep.
We were able to get that done back then, which was sort of like the first phase of the DREAM Act, which is the Jose Peralta Act, right? This late Senator Jose Peralta.
And another Queens College graduate.
And another Queens College graduate and a great human being. Yeah. So this has been in my DNA for a long time. Unfortunately, now we have to handle it piecemeal. So, you know, we'll push for it. We just forwarded 6 executive orders, recommendations to President Biden, given that there is no political appetite or conditions for an agreement on comprehensive immigration reform. One of them is Dreamers, of course, and then there's the TPS for Ecuadorian and 3 others. And we're hopeful that he will be able to enact and really approve some of these executive orders. And we could get out ahead of the bigger debate, which I think will happen next year, which is how do we bring bipartisan support for a comprehensive act.
Yeah. Well, and things like, I mean, the reference you make to the Ecuadorians is also your sort of common sense approach to politics, right? The Ecuadorian community already has a big hub in New York City, so you know that that migration will end up coming to New York City.
No
So
question.
why do we do it in the best way so that those individuals can immediately incorporate themselves into the workforce, be able to receive assistance and be able to contribute and bring their assets in a way that everybody wins?
Once you give them the temporary protected status, what it does is accelerates the ability for them to get a work permit. And once you get them working, they're no longer dependent on government.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to sort of like make ends for themselves. They'll pay taxes.
They contribute,
and,
yes.
and of course, they move forward. And eventually, they'll have a member of Congress, right? And so this is a sensible and common sense approach to government that I think makes sense for New York City and the rest of the country.
Yeah. So let me ask you something, because you've been, such a great and historic career in public service, the first Dominican in the New York State Assembly, and everywhere you go, you keep breaking a glass ceiling. So it's been a life also led very much on the public eye, right? Which I'm sure it takes its toll, and it's. Yes. Is there something for the audience about the private Adriano Espaillat that you would like to share? I think people know about you.
I find ways to sort of like break the stress. I'm a huge baseball fan, so I love to watch baseball. I find ways to relax and of course, to make it enjoyable. First of all, you have to enjoy this, right?
Yes.
You cannot be in politics, in government, if you don't like it. And I really enjoy it, and so it's easier. Of course, walking every day across the neighborhood and listening to people and listening to complaints and praises and complaints and suggestions and complaints and ideas, I think it's a positive exercise. And I do that all throughout Harlem and East Harlem and Northern Manhattan and the Bronx, because the district has a good chunk of the Bronx now. It's a fulfilling exercise that sends me back to Washington re-energized with new ideas, new commitment every single day of moving forward. So that's, that connection. I never shied away from an election, a primary, or, I've had in the last 27 years, I might have had 23 of those. And so it keeps my feet on the ground. And it keeps me grounded and informed of what my constituencies want and need and what their ideas are. And I think that's important for anybody in public office.
Well, I think you do it with distinction, and obviously, like you say, with joy and people.
You gotta like this. Definitely.
It's a lot of parades, a lot of events, a lot of things
Yes.
to attend. Any sort of particular issue? We talked about immigration. We talked about your work in education. Any other sort of large issue that is a big priority for you as we speak now?
Now I'm beginning to focus, be laser focused on the artificial intelligence issue. I think we're about to hit another major revolution, right?
Yeah.
And so if some of our folks and neighborhoods are left behind out of that new opportunity, they'll be so far behind that it will be relatively difficult, if not impossible, to catch up. And so I think it's important that we pay attention to it and looking at the issue of AI literacy, which I think the colleges will play a pivotal role in it. I'm looking about building a hemispheric strategy for it. We cannot think about this in silos and just U.S. only, but we got to think in terms of the hemisphere so that we don't drag in this new chapter of development, worldwide development, all the biases and weaknesses that we've dealt with in the past. And so this is a major challenge, and I'm spending more time on it, and I hope to be a leader of this issue.
Well, thank you. I mean, for us also, the university is a huge subject too, and because it goes to anticipating what that's going to do so we can better prepare our students to be ready for that and to be participants, and particularly the students that we serve, as your point made. You don't want them to be behind, but it also revolutionizes even the way that you teach, right? So it's not just prepping the ones who are coming, is also working on
the economy. The impact that it will have undoubtedly will have on the economy.
It's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge. You know, the impact is going to have in the classroom, and science and research, right? In all disciplines, you know, law, medicine, you know, accounting, everything will be dramatically impacted. In fact, one of my colleagues, Ted Lieu from California, was very smart about approaching it. And, you know, there's a debate about the guardrails of artificial intelligence and the governance of it, right? And so he went into one of the apps and said, and asked artificial intelligence to produce the roadmap on how to govern itself. And there you had it right there. And so this is really an unprecedented time.
A game changer, absolutely. So with that, Congressman Espaillat, let's engage with our diverse students from your alma mater, Queens College. But first, we'll take a quick break. Stay tuned, we'll return shortly. Welcome back. You are watching Café con Felo. My guest today is the nation's leading Dominican elected official, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. For this section of the program, we went to Queens College, where Congressman Espaillat got his political science degree. The first question is from Katie.
Hi, Congressman Espaillat. I'm a CUNY student who went to school later on in life. I'm also of the Dominican descent. As a Dominican immigrant, what can you tell us about your experience in the CUNY College in the 70s? What challenges did you face having to learn the language and navigating through your experiences?
Thank you for the question. That's a great question. The first thing is that when I came to the United States from the DR in grammar school, we didn't have bilingual education. It was monolingual. And we lost the grade. They used to take a grade away from all the students that came from abroad. And so it was difficult sitting in the back of a classroom, not knowing what was being said for maybe 2 to 3 years. And then you had to play catch up. And so I remember that I later on ran into some of my college term papers, and I read some of my freshman year papers. And I said, wow, I really needed help, right? And then I saw some of the senior year papers, and I said, I can see the progress now. And so those 4 years were critical and I think very productive in getting me to catch up with regards to language proficiency. And so I think that was very important. Of course, CUNY provided a safety net also of support with the professors and everything else that it had to offer. CUNY is not just a school, it's a family, right? And so I would always be very grateful to the role that CUNY played in getting me to where I am right now. But I could tell you that writing is a critical discipline, right? Maybe more difficult than reading and reading comprehension and analytical reasoning. Because you got to make sure you put that comma in place, right? I really got some progress there in CUNY, my 4 years in CUNY.
On the writing too, people say that writing helps to organize the thoughts, right?
That's correct.
Being able to do all that. So, I mean, people probably would be surprised thinking that you were in Washington Heights. Why Queens College and not City or
another good question.
Or any other schools in Manhattan or Lehman? That was.
Well, I had a childhood friend who was a little older than me, who was a leader. You know, he was like the student body president at George Washington High School, and he went to Queens College, and so he got a whole bunch of us. It wasn't just me, but a group of us from Washington Heights to go to Queens College.
Well, you know, and that continues to be amazing how the influence of your peers
Yes.
has a big impact on where students decide to end up going. And I didn't know that, so now I know why.
Yes.
Why Queens. So we have a second question from Mahir, also from Queens College.
Hi, Congressman Espaillat. As someone who has navigated the undocumented experience before and now is in a position of leadership where you can advocate for other immigrant populations in New York State, what would you suggest to aspiring undocumented and immigrant student advocates like myself to empower ourselves?
Well, I think it's important that we hear the voices of the undocumented in the immigration debate, that they're not silent or in the shadows, that they're able to come out and say what they feel and understand firsthand better than anybody else, really, because they live it every day. And so, I had a conversation with my brother the other day, and I had really forgotten that my brother reminded me, you remember that immigration visited our house twice looking for my sister, my older sister. I said, I had totally forgotten about that. And, so it is the plight of the immigrant themselves that will make, I think, a difference in the debate. Yeah. Not just the think tanks, not just the academics, not just the experts, but the immigrants themselves, I think, could tell the story in a far more precise and better way.
And you've been such a supporter of our own Citizenship Now program at CUNY that has been so instrumental in getting so many
Yes.
individual services and support. And again, it's always based on listening from their experience, what we can do better,
Absolutely.
How the system can be improved. And so thank you for that historic support you're giving to Citizenship Now, because it's been really, really important.
Yeah, there are two really exceptional programs that have touched Northern Manhattan. That's been one of them. Yeah. And of course, CUNY in the Heights, which is
one of your babies.
One of my babies. And so those two programs, I think, make a difference every day for people.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to your point also, making sure that they get language, if language is the barrier, they get workforce skill training, if that's what they need to be able to connect with the right jobs, going back to your support of the Rangel Center. So all those things, right, provide individuals that want to contribute the tools that they need to do that. So.
Well, if you look at it, I've been involved in so many CUNY-related things, from CUNY in the Heights to Citizenship Now, to the recruitment office in Northern Manhattan, to the Rangel Center, to funding for the Dominican Studies Institute, for El Centro Puertorriqueño, to the Mexican Institute, to Bronx Community College, where I'm working on now on the automotive program. Really like a host of things.
Yep.
In-state tuition, additional funding for CUNY, the SEEK program, the Discovery program. I mean, CUNY has really played a big role in what I do. Right?
We really benefited from your great support and leadership. And I think that's a great way to sort of end the interview. I know that we're going to continue to count with your support as the years go by. So thank you, Congresista Espaillat, so much for making the time. I know you're very busy when you're in the district, but it's been great to get a sense of your trajectory, your priorities, all the things that you've done in public service. We're honored to have you here. We're honored to have you as an alum. Thanks for watching Café con Felo, and please tune in on weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. on CUNY TV. Muchas gracias y saludos.
Gracias.